This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org here in beautiful San Diego, California. And of course, a lot of people in the cryptocurrency community are talking about a new SEC, Security Exchange and Commission's government decision that is going to come down in a few moments that will have a huge effect on the cryptocurrency world. And to talk about that and the ramifications of it and what will happen and what can happen, we of course have Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media and Danny Sessions. He's all over the place, especially in the cryptocurrency community, doing a lot of incredible work. But first of all, for the people who are just still finding out, what is the SEC doing? What is their decision? What's happening with their kind of bigger deal that they're trying to get through?
Well, basically what they're doing is the SEC and the CFTC is attempting to claim that Ethereum is a security. Now, if they were successful in doing so, they could actually bring down the price about 80%. We're going to go into that a bit further in a minute, how it's probably not so likely. But basically it means that they sold in their ICO, and people expected to get a bit of money out of it. Obviously, they expected to raise money and see the value go up. And for that reason, the government, the good old government is coming in and saying, well, we need to find a way to basically shut this down and claim Ethereum as a security.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of messages, people being like, sell your Ethereum, sell your Ethereum. Obviously, Ethereum is a huge piece of the kind of blockchain and this kind of cryptocurrency world. Ripple is also on the chopping block, Danny, I heard. And what are your kind of analysis? Because you're in the kind of conference world. You talk to the people from Ripple, you talk to the people from a lot of these spaces. What do you think may happen? And because there's also talks about lobbyists being hired and people working with the government to try to work something out. How do you see this kind of picture unfolding?
I don't think it's all that big of a deal. I went to a conference right here in San Diego 2 days ago, well, 2 days before this conference, and the main sponsor was the Federal Reserve, but a rock's throw away from them is Ripple. So they're obviously working with the banking industry, and they're not afraid. And there's been many reports of people that are in the banking industry just recently buying up Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So they're on the inside. They know what's going on. They're not afraid. So I don't think you should be. And I think it's kind of arrogant for people to actually think that the U.S. matters in terms of Ethereum, because, there's a big world out there, and most of the ICOs are probably, you can't even buy most ICOs in the United States anyway, because of, fear of the SEC. So I don't think it's all that big of a deal. I'm not worried.
Yeah, Ripple has kind of been labeled as like kind of the government kind of banking coin. We did see a lot of large influx from a lot of people from Wall Street going into the cryptocurrency space, which is very fascinating to see how it will kind of develop and build. But even right now in the United States, if you want to buy into coins like EOS, you can't. You can't get into ICOs because of a lot of the laws, a lot of the restrictions are out there. But of course, that hasn't stopped a lot of people from just getting VPNs and then going on there and getting them anyway. So it's definitely kind of a Wild West kind of space that's unfolding here. How do you see it, Josh?
Well, absolutely. And you mentioned all these people on Wall Street, et cetera, getting into cryptocurrencies, and they'd be stupid not to. So even if it is something that they don't like Jamie Dimon or George Soros, they're still buying it because they would be dumb not to. They're tied into the derivatives markets, highly bubbled, and they want to be able to actually save their wealth because they know what's coming. It's the same reason they buy up gold and silver as well. But I do want to mention a quote by Joseph Lubin, who was the Ethereum Foundation co-founder, who said, we spent a tremendous amount of time with lawyers in the U.S. and in other countries and are extremely comfortable that it is not a security. It never was a security. Many regulators that matter understand what Ethereum is. And it's important to mention that the government is going to do whatever they can to bring down cryptocurrencies, and it's largely futile. Most of the regulations and laws are unenforceable. We recently saw a study by Credit Karma that showed about 0.04% of people actually reported their cryptocurrencies to the IRS this last tax season. It's largely futile. They are going to lose the battle because decentralization always wins. Intrinsically, it always has.
Of course, that doesn't stop them with a lot of the regulations, a lot of the tax rulings, a lot of the different kind of legislation that's being kind of thrown at cryptocurrencies. And it's a very the Wild West again, unfolding space where it's like, wait, how do I do this? A large portion of people aren't kind of paying taxes on it as well, and it's like how, because the system hasn't even figured out how to even properly tax it. There was an announcement that every transaction now needs to be taxed, but that's virtually impossible to keep up, especially even with light traders, with the value of it going up and the value of it going down. So I don't know how you guys see this space unfolding.
You know what I think is, this is supposed to happen tomorrow, right? So they'll probably make some scary statement, but nothing will be conclusive, and everyone will run scared. The price will soar downward, maybe. Who knows? It'll come down, and then the banker types will start buying it up. They're doing just like Jamie Dimon did. They're creating FUD so that they can buy into the market cheaply.
Yeah. And we talked about that before, Luke, a few months back when South Korea did something very similar where they claimed that they were going to ban Bitcoin, and then it turned out, well, that wasn't the case, but it's pretty obvious. They bought low. They just let it tank a bit, and then they bought in low. It's market manipulation, and every good market has manipulation. It's not a good thing, but those guys are always going to interfere, and it's a short-term problem because in the end, they can try and attack it. You mentioned tax code 1031 by the IRS, amended in January in order to tax every transaction, every trade. Absolutely futile. Can you imagine how many people they'd have to hire at the IRS to actually go and check every single person in the world that has cryptocurrencies, if they even know they have cryptocurrencies? Absurd. It's not going to work out for them.
Yeah, and check out every transaction and the value and go indexed everything. It's virtually impossible even for the average kind of like small trader to keep track of and get to know what's going on. But it's very interesting because I'm hearing a lot of this kind of speculation of this kind of economic false flag with governments going after cryptocurrencies, making these big announcements that don't really amount to anything. There is a price effect, and then we do see a lot of the people who kind of the cryptocurrency community was made against getting in there, especially when the price is low and the price being manipulated.
Yeah, can I make a quick comment there, Luke? We've seen a very similar thing with gold and silver since 1933 at the creation of the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which was funded with confiscated gold under FDR. That same kind of thing has been happening in gold for a long time. And that doesn't mean that gold's bad. I mean, we see Deutsche Bank manipulating the price. They got caught guilty in a court of law doing just that. We are going to see the same thing in cryptocurrencies because the establishment is afraid of what decentralization can do to a society that's so incredibly centralized through central banks and government. So I think it's just them running scared, and I think they will be at the losing end of this at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's money without a central banking figure controlling it, which is terrifying to a lot of people. And we saw the central banks throughout history with inflation and the deflation and the manipulation of the markets become the richest people in our society. What are your experiences, Danny, with kind of the market manipulation that you've been seeing, the cryptocurrency space that you've been seeing, and how it's unfolding, and kind of where do you see it going?
Just the same as I said before. I think the government's manipulating it so they can drive the price downward.
Is there any way to fight that, or
don't sell? Hold, hodl.
Yeah.
Go ahead, misspell it and hodl.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Wait for the lows and buy it up. When you see it high, sell it. How's that go?
Yeah.
Sell high, buy low.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should all be thanking the government for this gift that they've given us of a cheaper cryptocurrency.
I can't say. Going back to the conference I was at the other day, this was straight up a bankers conference. It was called the National Automatic Clearinghouse Association, right? This is where all the ACH shit happens. And they were having blockchain talks. They had a couple of talks that were actually based on blockchain, but the big feel that I was getting, because I went to literally every booth there of every vendor, and they would not talk to me on camera, but they would talk off of camera, and it's blockchain good, Bitcoin bad. So Bitcoin is evil, but they are considering blockchain. So that was kind of the feel I got.
And if I could just make one final point to your viewers, because it's a new world and a lot of people are concerned. The world reserve currency kind of thing comes up a lot in comments, and I just want to explain once again that there's a difference between centralization and decentralization of the blockchain. Blockchain can be used for good and evil. If it's centralized, it can be used to enslave humanity. If it's decentralized, it can overthrow that which enslaves humanity, and that's a really important part. The government and central banks do not benefit by using something like Bitcoin as a world reserve currency. It would be really stupid for them to do such a thing when they're trying to centralize society.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of fear and a lot of people saying cryptocurrencies are going to be $0 soon. But I think one thing that is definitely clear is that blockchain and the kind of cryptocurrency technology is definitely not going away and will be a wave of the future. And obviously governments are going to be vying for control and taxation and the issuance of that in many ways.
Governments that are not under the control of the U.S. are adopting them. You know, Venezuela has the Petro. Was it Malta is inviting all these exchanges to come? So, you know, there you go.
There's always other alternatives, there's always other answers, there's always VPNs, and there's always this new space that is still unfolding and figuring itself out. So this video is actually going to be released Monday before the SEC decision. So to find out what will happen, definitely follow Josh and Danny. Any last words and where people could find out more information from you?
Just go to World Alternative Media on YouTube, and I'll keep you up to date as much as I can.
TheCryptoShow.com, same on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, wherever the hell, you know. We're everywhere.
You had a nice little seagull ending there. And of course, thank you guys for watching and supporting Real Independent Media. If you found this video useful, share it with your friends and family members. And of course, stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/WeAreChange.